evening, everyone. I'm David Johnson from Transform Ed Consulting, and it's my pleasure to have as our guest tonight, Bernadette. How you doing, Bernadette?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing very well, thank you.
Wonderful. Bernadette Ortiz-Brewster, PhD, is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, K-12. She has over 25 years experience as a board member, school co-founder, K-12 executive, K-University educator, consultant, and corporate partnership executive. Unique K-12 school models fuel her passion for ensuring all learners have options that match their unique needs and interests. As a leading expert in her field, Dr. Ortiz-Brewster presents at national and state technology conferences to share the school models her teams have crafted nationwide, such as school within a school, blended, hybrid, and virtual schools. She encourages state and local leaders to unite with industry experts so they can provide high school scholars with high quality college and career options before they graduate. It's great that you're here. I'm happy to meet you and happy to have you as a guest.
Likewise. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself regarding the introduction. You've done a lot of different things. Where did you start?
I actually started while I was getting my master's degree at the University of Hawaii. I was very fortunate to earn a position as an adjunct professor. Never thought I would become a teacher. My father actually used to call me his little teacher, and I would say to him, I would never be a teacher. And when I was asked to do a fellowship in the classroom at the University of Hawaii, I fell in love with being in the classroom on day one. And then from there, I was very fortunate to earn a position at Punahou School as a middle school Spanish teacher. And that's where my love for middle school began, and also my love of technology.
Could you expand more on your love for technology? And I certainly don't want to give away your age or anything like that. And I don't want to, I don't want to do anything like that. But I understand you were very instrumental in bringing technology and using, I'll say, computer-based learning, computer-based instruction, computer-based education to students. Tell us how you went in that direction.
Well, as at the time, one of the younger teachers in the language department, we had wonderful opportunities to have devices or, a Mac lab, one of the first of its kind. And I would go in there and just try to figure out what kind of projects can I create for my middle school students and get them excited about learning. And when you're learning a foreign language, it's really difficult to mimic accents. And so I would go in there and figure out how to do little audio files for my students. And I remember teachers coming to me at the high school, because my middle schoolers would end up going to the high school on campus. And they would say, oh my gosh, Bernadette, we know all of your students. They sound exactly like you. So
were you making the recordings?
Yes.
So demonstrating a foreign language and the accent of a foreign language.
Yeah, so that they could hear my accent and be able to hear it at home while they were doing their homework, because that wasn't.
They heard your New York accent.
New York and Puerto Rican all together.
Okay. And so
it was great.
And those were the days before networking as well. So did you make programs? How did you do that?
Well, so I learned how to create a very rudimentary website so that they had a page that basically it was just a bunch of charts, right? So it was a text box with a bunch of my audio files that said Unit 1, Lesson 1, Unit 2. And then I started playing around with clip art. And so would put cute little clip arts, anything to kind of get them excited to go to the page. And then the other teachers that were teaching other languages were asking to learn as well. And they're like, how do we do that in Japanese class? Or how do we do that for Mandarin? And so I started teaching them not to really basically be afraid of the computer, because I think there was this fear that something was going to blow up.
And that's when it all started. Now, tell us where you are now regarding computer-based education or computer-based training or computer-based instruction.
Well, I am, right now, everything that I've done in my career has led to where I am today. It really has. It's been such a wonderful journey, and everything that I've learned along the way, I'm utilizing.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I was realizing when I was the executive director of College Park Academy was that we had lots of parents asking for industry credentials and, what else can we do for our students in the high school level so that we can really prepare them and expose them to opportunities once they graduate. So students are always being told, we want you to prepare for college and career. Well, I did most of my career preparing students for college, and we did a great job with that. But I also want to give students that feel at a point in their time of graduation that if they want to go into a career, that they're prepared to do that on day one and not have to continue going to another school or to another program.
Mhm.
So right now I'm working with state and local leaders
Mhm.
to be able to offer students industry credentials in technology. So for
That's
software
great.
development, cybersecurity, just getting them prepared, but they can also earn college credits at the same time.
Well, that is so impressive. I like how you said everything has built upon itself and led me to where I am now. This is very interesting, and kudos for you. Now,
Thank you.
I mentioned it earlier, so I'll say it again. You're a New Yorker. I am a New Yorker too.
Yes,
We have that in common.
very proud Staten Islander, that's for sure.
Yes, and I grew up in Manhattan. And both of us found our way to Texas.
Yes. Go figure, huh?
Yeah,
We have
go
been
figure.
around.
Well, it's great
So,
having you here. Our topic tonight is school design. Our students should have options. Where would you like to start?
well, I think, basically what I was talking about in terms of industry credentials, I think it's really important for students to have places to go that meet their needs. And way before the pandemic, as a huge advocate of technology, huge advocate of virtual learning, blended learning, hybrid learning, and it all culminates in a student has a particular need, and is our traditional school meeting that need?
Now,
And
let me
if they're not,
interrupt you.
mhm.
What is the definition of need? And then how do you determine what need is?
So I have several examples of students that I've had throughout my career that have had to stay home because of treatments, medical treatments. And they weren't able to fully participate in a traditional school.
Mhm.
And so they really were missing out not only on strong academics, but they were missing out on socialization and so many of the things that schools are so wonderful to provide students. And so I was really interested in virtual learning because I said, is there a way, and I've learned that there is a way because I was part of it, for students to be able to participate, not skip a beat, but be able to still do what they need to do at home in terms of if even if they're homeschooled, if they're with their families or they're traveling or they're professionals in their own right, and they can take school with them. And so that's where I really became passionate about we need to meet them where they are in their lives, and how do we still provide them an excellent education if they're not able to be in an actual school building.
And you believe that can be accomplished through e-learning?
Yes, I actually have lots of data, and my dissertation was based on that as well.
Mhm.
I am a strong advocate. I helped open virtual schools for Pearson as well.
Mhm.
And I have seen the success when virtual learning is done well.
Mhm. Done well. What's the definition of done well?
Well, it's not sitting on Zoom for 8 hours.
Mhm.
That's what we consider emergency remote learning. And we
Right.
did see some of that, but I have to say, everybody did the very best they could with what they knew at the time. But
Mhm.
I think it also opened the doors to some options where people didn't really see that there were opportunities out there, and now they're more apt to engage and try out new things. But
And those options, uh,
Mhm,
um, over the years, I've done lots of things too. I've
mhm.
including taking courses via
Yes.
the I can't remember the name of the software we use, not Banner, something else. Anyway, and I'm an adult and I could get through it. But how about children who do not have the same discipline that adults might have?
Right. And that's where it's super important that the family engages with the school. It really is a collaborative effort. You can't just put students online, expect them to do adult things and to be 100% responsible or to be engaged. And so there typically is, in a good program, there typically is someone at home, a coach or a co-teacher that's working with the students. Now, once the students learn how to do this and really master it, then they're easily able to do this on their own as they get older. So in the beginning, it's not having them on the computer when they're younger. It's having them on the computer for a short period of time, but then doing some offline work with the person that is supporting them at home.
Now, you said a key word, what I think is a key word, engagement. How do we keep people engaged? It's hard enough with adults.
Yes.
How do we keep young people engaged?
Well, there's wonderful stuff out there now in terms of very engaging curriculum. There's interactive avatars that, guide students on the screen and keep them engaged, and then getting them offline, getting them to work on, papers or artwork or projects that are really more authentic to what they're learning, having them go outside and work on science projects and things like that. So it's not just all on the computer.
Now, would you say some of those things, well, we always say that necessity is the mother of invention. Would you say that some of those things came about as a result of the pandemic?
Well, there have been virtual schools for many, many years. I was fortunate to work for Pearson, and the co-founder of Connections Academy actually had the honor of working with Mickey Ravenel. And when she started this 20-something years ago, it has truly developed into something very, very different in terms of engagement. And so I think a lot of schools were not aware of all the wonderful things you could do by integrating technology and resources into your classroom. And that had really opened their eyes to, wow, maybe now they take little bits and pieces of it and use it to engage students in their own classrooms.
Cool. Well, let's pick one of your other topics here, the joy of leading innovative schools and working with experts. Tell us about that.
Well, I have to say, opening up a charter school in Maryland in 2013 was probably one of the hardest projects I ever had, but probably one of the most fulfilling. And that was because the hard work really paid off in terms of creating something with my teachers and families and the students, and basically saying, okay, this is what we need to accomplish. How do we do that and benefit students and work together? And so it was truly a joy to be able to work with people that were passionate about something that you were passionate about as well. And I think that's where leading a project like that is just so fulfilling. It's when I look back now, and now they still have incredible leaders that I left behind, and got to meet with them during the DLAC conference recently. And they're still doing incredible work. But to be able to look back and say, wow, we helped thousands of students.
That's a great feeling,
that wasn't there before. It's an incredible feeling.
Well, who were the experts in this case? Did you bring in consultants? Were these IT experts? Were these e-learning experts?
Yeah. So one of the things that we did is we knew this was something so new. We were calling it on the bleeding edge at the time. This was a blended model where students were actually in the building physically, but they also had teachers online, and then they also had support and content specialists in the building. Well, we were all kind of building this as we were going along, but we had the expertise of Connections Education, which is now Pearson, and all of their support and working with us, because this was also something new for them, working with an actual not traditional, but working with a charter school in terms of how do we do this together, right? How do we get this learning management system to really be engaging and work for professional teachers that are in a building, as well as teachers that are online. And so bringing in those experts, and that's why I'm so passionate with what I do today in terms of technology education, because now I work for one of the premier providers of technology education and teacher training, is because why, these are things that we want. We know we need them. We want to provide them. Why are we reinventing the wheel? Let's bring in the experts. Let's bring in the people that have been doing this in the industry and give this to our students.
And use their expertise. It might be helpful to our audience and to me as well. If we define school within a school, blended, hybrid, and virtual schools, I think we know what school within a school is, but tell us if you could briefly tell us the differences between those four.
Yeah, so typically a hybrid model, there were some high schools where students come in part-time into the building or are engaged online, but then they're able to work and they're able to do other things that they need to do. So that's more of a hybrid model. That's also a really good model if you're trying to maximize space. So where you can have double the amount of students in a school day, where you can rotate them out. You're seeing that's something popular with the older students. And then blended can be two things. Blended could be where you have content specialists, physical teachers there in the building, and then you have virtual teachers that are also engaging, content specialists engaging with the students, or kind of lost my train of thought. So blended is a mix of pedagogy, basically.
And virtual, I take it virtual is completely online e-learning.
Yes, 100% virtual means that they're engaging with their content specialists, their teachers online. But it doesn't mean that they're not doing stuff, offline, but that they're in school full time virtually.
Understood. What is this whole thing about flipping the classroom?
Well, I mean, it's basically what we're doing now. I mean, we're asking students to prepare ahead of time so that when they do come together with the teacher and their classmates, they're able to engage at a much higher level. So asking students to do things offline, and then the conversation discussion is much more, I think it's richer because students are preparing ahead of time. So instead of having students sit in a classroom and read this article while we're all sitting there together quietly, they come into the classroom prepared. They've done that ahead of time.
Okay. I'm watching the clock. We have a long way to go and not a lot of time to get there. So pick another one of these bullets.
Let's see. One of the topics I'm also very interested in, and I have been working with in some states right now, my current position is the benefits of K-12, not only working with expert providers, but also working with their community colleges and universities. Because, for instance, if we're going to say that we want to offer students industry credentials in technology, then why aren't we partnering with our community colleges so that their students can earn dual credits while they're getting their industry courses? And then when they graduate, some companies actually offer, if they're getting dual credits, they can actually graduate and they can either go into college, continue their academic path, or they can get a job because they'll have an industry credential because of the community college dual enrollment. So
now, Bernadette, I'm going to take you back. I currently teach as an adjunct at one of our local community colleges. And of course, early college, high school. And even before early college, high school, we had dual enrollment. And you'll recall during the pandemic, or perhaps as the pandemic was winding down, and maybe we're still in the pandemic, there was a large call for employees. And some companies were even looking for people even without a college credential. How do the badges and the what are they called when you get a Microsoft credential? What is that? What is that called? Help me out here.
When they're trying to get a micro credential or a
Okay.
badge.
Okay, I know about badges and I know those micro credentials. What else? There are some that you can get that's specific to a particular software company.
Yeah. So, for instance, if you're in software development, there are companies like the one I work for right now where they offer their own credentials. So these are industry credentials that when they go to, they're globally recognized by companies. And so these companies are looking for basically a stamp or certificate saying that this company vouches because they took the course and they took the exams, and it's like a diploma for a college or a high school, but it's for those very specific skills. And the wonderful thing about these credentials, these industry credentials or these badges or micro credentials, is that students, even the colleges, by offering this to adults, they're not having to go back to school and get a 2 or 4 year degree all over again just because they want to enter a specific field. And so this is what, work-based competency, right? So just prove that you can do the work, and then you have a pathway to get into these companies. Like, someone like us, we've been to school for a very, very long time, and that's commendable. But what if I want to change my career? I really am not interested in going back to school for 4 years just because I want to enter the tech field.
Well, Bernadette, I have a story for you. When I was a high school administrator, I had a student who had worked in our CAD lab and graduated and got a job immediately right out of high school working CAD. And I saw him after he had graduated, and we're chatting. How are things going? How are you doing? How's life? How's work? How's career? And he said he was going back to college. He was going back to school. He's going to go to college. And I asked him why. And he said, the guy next to me is doing the exact same work I'm doing. He has a college degree and he's making more money than me. So is that still happening when a student has the credential, has the badge? Is the student being paid at the same level as someone who has a 4-year degree?
Well, I think sometimes they are. It just really depends on the position. And I think the benefit is, I'm an academic, right? So I always promote going to school. But if you really think about it, if you look on LinkedIn, let's say, and you look at a lot of these tech jobs, and they're saying, if you have a 4-year degree, you can apply for this job, but you also need 3 to 4 years of experience. Well, that's tough to do. And if you don't have a 4-year degree, you can have this, if you have this credential, you also can apply for this job. And that's because some companies see the value in, they actually can do the job on day one. And that really is what's important in a lot of these positions is, and I think the world has shifted, especially since the pandemic, and the value in being able to actually do the work. And so a lot of these credentials, what they're doing is they're providing students an opportunity to demonstrate their expertise in a particular area. I know from my husband, sometimes he says, I like to get this, I like to get the students in and train them myself, and, they have their basic competency passed, but I want to train them in what we do in our company a certain way. So there's value in that as well.
Understood. Looks like we haven't touched type of school models that prepare students for their futures. Could we go back to that?
I'm trying to think. So type of school models. So you have, like we talked about, we have blended, we have college and career opportunities. You're starting to see a lot of schools offering not only their high school education, but offering pathways. And so they're offering pathways in technology, pathways to jobs in the tech field, pathways to jobs in the nursing field, healthcare. So there's all kinds of pathways now. And what I love about this is even though students, of course, can shift at any time, right? They may start off in one pathway and end up in another. I think what these pathways do is they give students exposure to something that they may not have been exposed to in the past. I know that growing up, I had a wonderful family and a wonderful upbringing, but I was very limited in what I was exposed to. And so I had no idea that there were so many different jobs out there that I could have pursued if I would have known about them. So I think that having these pathways available lets students kind of tinker in different areas and say, oh, well, let me try that. Let me take that course and see if that's something that I'm interested in.
Well, now, Bernadette, let me check my understanding of pathway. Pathway sounds restricted to me. For example, you and I probably were on the college bound program. Mm-hmm. And if you were in college bound, you didn't take other kinds of courses. All the courses were aimed toward college. So it seems to me that if we had pathways, they would be restrictive.
No, because they're typically, it's more of like when we took electives. So we took electives in whatever field that we wanted to dabble in. So basically a pathway is more of a concentrated set of electives. So you're still doing all your academics and all your requirements, but then maybe you concentrate your electives. So you take a tech course and then you say, you know what, I really like software development. I'm going to take the next one. But then you can always shift. It's not like you have to stay in that pathway. But if a student really likes what they're doing and they want to concentrate in that particular area, that pathway, they then can build their credentials, their portfolio, and then come out with a portfolio that they can offer and show during an interview.
Mm-hmm. We would say we want students to graduate with as broad a set of options as possible. And
Absolutely.
Options is one of your key terms here. Students need options. And then earlier in our conversation, you spoke about how we expected that when students graduated, they could be career ready or college ready. Right. So are those the options that you have in mind?
Yes, to me, it's really important that students are, I guess I'm going to call it double dipping. Okay, because basically, if they're able to take a course that eventually is going to lead to an industry certification, why can't they also earn college credit for that same industry certification? And if you're working with the community colleges, and the community colleges are also offering these industry credentials and these pathways at their schools, they can easily be able to earn both. And that's why I think that that's valuable. And then when they graduate, who knows where they're going to be in their life at the time. They can say, you know what? I have this industry credential. I can enter this field if I want to. Maybe my employer will pay for my college, or they go right into a school, into a higher education institution with some college credit in their back pocket.
Very good. Well, Bernadette, you have a wealth of knowledge, and we could probably talk for another 2 or 3 hours, but unfortunately we're out of time. So would you please, if you could boil this down to a single takeaway, what would it be?
I would really encourage school leaders to really start having conversations with high quality providers, be it virtual learning, industry professionals, companies that already provide high quality curriculum, high quality teacher training, and give them, by working together with them, not only are you creating a pathway to higher paying jobs for students, but you're also exposing your teachers to something that they might also be passionate about, and then give the teachers options as well.
Great. And if people want to know more, how do they contact you?
Well, I am definitely on LinkedIn under Bernadette Ortiz-Brewster, and my email is also listed there, bortiz-brewster@𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞.com. I do a little consulting on the side, so that's my email for that. Would love to speak to anyone that's interested in learning more about school design and what's available out there with providers.
Great. Well, it's wonderful having you here as our guest. I'm David Johnson, Transform Ed Consulting, and I must give credit to my dear colleague and friend, Cassandra Williams, who is the brains behind Educational Innovations 360 Degrees. Thank you all for being here with us this evening, and I wish you a wonderful evening and see you next time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.